So some of the common themes, just real quickly, the overlay of the importance of community engagement and that is meaningful. And obviously, a part of that is also a clarity about values. When we say equitable development, that implies a certain set of values. And we need to be really clear about that. There was some conversation about that, but obviously that's an ongoing one. There was also a lot of, there were at least 24 or more very clear and specific policy possibilities, solutions. Some that dealt with regulating the market, some that dealt with harnessing the market, some that dealt with limiting the market. There's all kinds of versions of that. There was a very sort of deep drill panel of academic researchers that talked about ways you can collect data to document what's happening, as well as set up early warning systems. We just had an all-star government panel who talked about some really interesting, and in some cases maybe somewhat controversial or provocative statements. We also had an all-star New York City panel that was equally provocative. What do we know about who leaves and why? In particular, how does race factor into this?
One of the findings where we're tracking people where they're living is that the people moving from predominantly black neighborhoods are moving to much worse neighborhoods than where they started relative to those moving from from not predominantly black neighborhoods. And so we don't have the race of the people that we're tracking, but I think that suggests that people who are minority residents who are being displaced are moving to worse off neighborhoods and getting the low end of the deal, the lowest end of the deal of people getting displaced.
As far as displacement goes and whether it's direct or indirect displacement, as sort of Vicki and I both sort of stated at our panel, this administration is very focused on the concerns about displacement, whether those be in the context of a rezoning action or otherwise occurring throughout the city. And the mayor is very focused, and HPD and others in the administration are very, very focused on addressing that issue regardless, whatever the EIS does or doesn't say, or whatever our methodologies do or don't say about those. And so, I think there are things that the EIS can disclose, but there are things that we know are the right things to do regardless, and we are doing them.
Okay. There is a lot dangling here from this conversation, and that was by design. There are some really interesting technical questions that came up today about, do we have the data infrastructure and the right research agenda to be able to get our heads around the displacement conversation and understand those dynamics? And there are also some significant sort of values conversations about how and why, and the question of equitable development and whether we have the right framework, the conversation between Brad and Vicki about does that framework exist and has it been articulated? So these are all big questions, and I think we are committed to continuing to work these conversations, and I really believe that this is the room of people and the folks live streaming who can really work with us to work these. As we were sitting and watching the RSVP list come in, we were just really thrilled to have all of you guys here today, and just a promise that this is not the end of the conversation, it's just the beginning, and watch this space to figure out what form that's going to take.